I would find things in real life to relate to Dark Souls, and my mom would be like, "Shut up! This isn't Dark Souls." And I'm like, "Yes, it is." And I still do that, and it drives everyone nuts.
Content warnings for this episode include mental health issues, dysphoria, and experiences with therapy.
Genderful would like to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples and unceded lands that the producers, hosts, and guests live and have dwelt upon. Today we honor the
Host Salish.
Mohawk, Algonquin, and Anishinabewaki.
I'm terrible at delivery. I'm so sorry.
We have Mohican written down here.
Mohican, yes, the Mohawk and the Mohican.
Oh my God.
We honor the elders, the human, plant, and animal ancestors of these lands, and celebrate the living descendants of these peoples. May all beings tend these lands for the goodness of the next 7 generations and beyond. Meowdy folks, welcome to Genderful, a talk show interviewing gender diverse folks about their special interests.
The name of our show celebrates that gender expansiveness is wonderful.
Hi, I'm GenderMeowster, and my pronouns are they, them.
Hi, I'm Atlas of Phoenix, and my pronouns are also they, them. The focus of our show is to interview trans, non-binary, agender, and gender-diverse people regarding their special interests, passion projects, and resources for the gender-diverse community.
We want our audience to know that this show is hosted by 2 folks who also identify as non-binary, transmasculine, neurodivergent, and disabled, with the passion for telling trans stories.
We invite you to remember that we are whole people with robust lives, friendships, challenges, and successes. We love and are loved, and we are delighted to share these stories with you.
As always, we kindly remind our listeners that no person is a monolith of their identities. Your identities can change over time and are valid every step of the way. And if you think you're gender diverse, you are gender diverse. There are no social or medical prerequisites to be included in the community. Welcome to Genderful episode 94. This week, our guest, TheBulbaBoy, he, they pronouns, is chatting with us about AuDHD. For those who are unfamiliar with this term, it refers to the intersection of autism and ADHD. TheBulbaBoy is a Twitch streamer and a friend of mine. It's me, GenderMeowster. So welcome to the show, TheBulbaBoy.
Hello.
I'm excited that you're here.
I'm very excited too. I always keep saying to myself, I need to hang out with Meowster more. And then I always forget, because that's the way of being AuDHD. You forget things.
Yeah. It's like the topic of the episode or something.
Wow.
Wow.
It's like we planned it.
Now, remind me, did you set a goal in January to collab with more people? Is that one of the goals you set for 2023?
Yeah, and I haven't collabed with anyone yet.
You're doing it right now. You're doing it.
Yay.
You're doing it. You did it.
Actually, I did Chaos Kitchen with Lewis.
Yeah.
That's actually one. So I've done 2 now. Yay.
You also did some kind of charity stream at some point.
Yes.
This year.
I've done like 3 so far, I think.
I feel like those are collabs. They're not with streamers, but they're with entities outside of yourself.
You're right. You're so
There you
right.
go. You did like 5 collabs and it's only July. That's like almost 1 a month. That's ambitious.
Now I want to pull up my New Year's resolutions and see how well I'm doing. Let's see. Haven't done that one yet. That's the one we just talked about. Haven't done that one. I did get out of working out of retail.
Nice.
Did get
That's a big
ADHD.
win.
Yeah.
And I'm still in the process of trying to boost my morale to get to a dentist. So
I feel like everyone should work retail
like
at
half of
some
them.
point in their lives, just so they have like an appreciation for what retail workers have to go through. And
how hard it is.
And actually like have some like, you know, human sympathy and decency for people who work in service industries.
you can't get me back there. No.
Oh no, I mean you can pay me to go
Yeah.
back, but I mean I definitely treat service workers very well because I've been there.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm doing
Well-
half of my New Year's resolutions are being worked on. So it's
And
July.
you're
so
halfway
we're doing
through the
great.
year. Yeah, you are doing
Yay.
great. You're doing great. I love it. So there's a couple questions that we always ask our guests, and I think we can maybe start there. What are some of the things that you can trace back to your youth that indicated you might be gender diverse one day?
Oh God. This this I feel like being gender diverse and being neurodivergent are both those experiences where I'll be sitting there and then have that's so Raven moment where I'll just be like, and then like remember something going on that like I'll look at a memory and just be like, oh no, that's a trans thing, or that's a neurodivergent thing. Like I mentioned this before in a previous interview, but one of the earliest ones that hit me was I was in elementary school on a playground, and we had this, like, most of the playground equipment was built out of old tires, and they had stacked the tires in like a pyramid, and a group of kids wanted me to climb up the pyramid with them, and I was like, you can't make me do it, I'm wearing a dress right now. And they're like, no one's gonna look up your dress. And I'm like, I can't do it. So I had that FOMO of watching my friends sharing their secrets in the top of the tire pyramid. Well, I had to stay there on the bottom, being all like, no, I can't go up. That's one painful.
Gotta just like staple the bottom of the dress in the middle together and make your dress into a jumper.
Yeah, if I knew how to do that
more,
thing they do
more
in
non-binary.
they do an ancient I think it's the ancient Romans where it's called girding your loins. And you
Yeah.
would like take the backside and pull it up the front and then tie it.
Yep. Like a true gladiator.
Yeah.
True warrior. Ready for battle with the tire pyramid. So, like, clearly something happened between being in a dress, wanting to climb tire irons, but being shy, to like what is happening now. So how has your relationship to gender evolved over time? Like, for those listening, you have a fabulous beard and a nice floral button up and a flat chest. So, I mean, something happened.
Yeah, amazing,
Then.
right? Oh, it's just like a long like breadcrumb trail of things. Thank you, Rylan. My beard is incredible. I'm at that point. They say that like on testosterone, your beard starts to come in between the 3rd and 5th year, and I'm on the 4th year, and now it's at the point where my mustache is actually starting to darken and connect to the bottom part of the jaw. Because
The
when I first
dream.
started, it just kind of like started as mutton chops and then filled into the center. And I still had like this line here of emptiness until like a year and a half ago. But now the mustache is connecting and darkening, and I'm like, yes, let's go. But in terms of my gender exploration, it's very long trail of breadcrumbs where, you know, me as a young kid being all like, I can't do that, that makes me uncomfortable, or why can't I do that because of my gender? Like sitting cross-legged on the couch and my grandmother saying, that's not ladylike. And I'm like, huh? Don't know what that means. What's a lady? What does ladylike mean? And then being severely disappointed anytime there was some sort of family function or graduation or something, and mom saying, you have to wear this dress. Don't you want to wear this one? It matches your glasses. And I'm like, yeah, my neurodivergence likes the fact that it matches, but my gender does not like the fact that it is a dress. And just several moments where I'm disappointed. And then suddenly I'm in college and I'm seeing such a diverse different ways, a diverse group of people, because I grew up in rural Vermont where there's really not a lot of visibly queer people in that area because it's like very boonies. So I didn't feel safe or comfortable, but I knew something was off with me and I just didn't know what the word was. And then being in college, I was like, oh, I think I have the chance to explore. Went to a couple drag shows. I was like, oh, this is neat. And then suddenly I was like, I want to try this out. Put on some beard makeup and a button down and a binder. And I was like, oops, this is me.
You had a strokey beard meeting with yourself and just got all that paint on your hand.
Yeah. I was like, well, the first thing I said was, I look like my dad.
It's hilarious because I'm trans femme, so like the experience you're describing is the one I had in reverse. Because when
Yeah.
you grow up as a boy, it's your mustache that comes in first, and then the rest of the beard comes in. So I'm now very glad that I don't have very many facial hairs left, and I wish I could just give those hairs to people who want them, but unfortunately that's not how it works. But let's go ahead and segue into the main topic of our discussion. We're talking about AuDHD, or the intersection of autism and ADHD, something I'm actually very personally interested in. Tell us about your experience about getting diagnosed with autism and ADHD.
So that one is very very interesting. So one of the things that I like to make as a disclaimer is that you don't have to be professionally diagnosed by a doctor with autism, because the world that we live in right now is so harsh towards autistic folks, as well as the fact that it's a very expensive process to go through. Even then, I feel like I cheated my ADHD diagnosis, but I'll take it and leave it. It was just like, my therapist was like, "Oh yeah, you definitely have ADHD," but going through the actual testing with a psychiatrist, I don't know how much that costs. I contacted this psychiatrist and to see about getting formally diagnosed, and they were like, "Oh, 6-month wait list." So I was on the 6-month wait list, and then they were like, "Okay." They took longer than 6 months to get back to me. They finally got back to me, and they were like 2 months late. So it was January, and they were like, "Okay, since you haven't reached your deductible yet," and I was like, "It's January. Of course I haven't reached my deductible yet." And they're like, "Because you haven't reached your deductible yet, that will be $2,000." And I'm like, "Excuse me?" Immediately hung up. Wasn't happening. Wasn't there for the ableist and classist experience there. Yeah. So I explained to my doctor, I was like, "Yeah, that ain't happening. There's no way that I'm getting a formal diagnosis." And she says, "Okay, we'll put you on the medication, because clearly I can tell right now, looking at you over the course of the past 6-7 months, that you're just a jittery mess and you can't focus on anything. And you talk about how miserable and anxious you are at your job because you can't get anything done. That yes, you have ADHD." So then when it comes to autism, though, I like to joke and say that I'm peer reviewed instead of professional. I think I have like a document on my computer somewhere that looks like a fake diploma. It says like peer reviewed autism, and then has like a little gold badge, and then lists who you're diagnosing, and then lists you.
Oh my God.
So funny.
Do you
Yeah.
have like an entry in the Journal of Psychology?
I should. I really should. Because it's just like, one of the things that frustrates me about autism is that it's so misunderstood. So like, for example, people at work will be like, "How can you make eye contact?" It's like, well, I'm low support needs. I don't really need a lot of supports. I didn't need any I feel like I needed intervention growing up, but no one noticed it, because my brother was also autistic and got diagnosed professionally and went through treatment so that he could be at a, air quote, societally appropriate level of socialization. And I, according to my parents, seemed like I was in that level. So it's at that point where there's such little research on autism when you're not cishet straight white young boy. Here I am, adult, transgender. You don't really see much criteria in the DSM-5 about people who are born female with autism diagnosis. So it just manifests differently depending on how you are raised socially, as well as the chemical features of your body. So I didn't want to be formally diagnosed so that I wouldn't have parts of my life gatekept from me. So for example, in certain states now, you can be denied your gender affirming care if you have a formal autism diagnosis.
Mhm.
I think it's Missouri is the one that will take away your HRT or won't allow you to receive surgeries because they think, oh, if you have an autism diagnosis, you are unable to make medical decisions for yourself.
Which is so wild because like comorbidity between autism and ADHD and being trans is like almost all of us.
Yes. I was just going to
So,
say that
yeah.
I don't think I know a single trans person that isn't on the spectrum.
Hypothetically they exist, but I don't know. There's one of my friends claims to not be on the spectrum and claims that she's the exception to the rule. But I don't know.
Yeah. No,
So
yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting because like a lot of people, a lot of the folks that I know that are on the spectrum, like they're not formally diagnosed. So like I'm not formally diagnosed, and my therapist is like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you're on the spectrum. It's like, oh, that's good to know at the age of 40, whatever.
Yeah.
Now, how would you say you advocate for your intersectional identity, especially with your neurodivergence?
One of the things I've been doing a lot lately is trying to make myself known. So like masking, for example, I would typically mask parts of myself when I'm at work so that no one knows. I feel like I would be treated differently if everyone knew that I was autistic or trans, for example. Those are things I'm just like, these people don't need to know unless they pass a vibe check, for example. So like right now, I'm probably out to like 5 of my current coworkers about being trans, but that's only because like either they are also trans or some flavor of queer. And then with my autism, I decided, and ADHD, I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna make it known to the people that need to know. But then the more that I unmask in places with other people, I start to feel more comfortable. So like at the interview for my current job, they asked me if the first thing they asked was, you put not specified for a disability. And then I started like shaking because I was like, oh my God, are they not going to hire me? Because that's a thing that happens. They don't hire people if they have a disability, which is against the law, but they make other claims. You know, they're like, yeah, you just don't possess the skills that we need, that sort of thing. But I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll take a shot in the dark, rolled the die, and I was like, oh, well, I'm autistic and ADHD, so I only need like very small supports, maybe, you know, getting some loop earplugs to wear if there's loud music and sudden noises in a location. And the woman who was doing my interview was like, sure, okay. And I was like, oh, really? That's it? That's supportive? And then I've been letting some of my supervisors know at my job, and they'll be like, okay, cool. If you need to step away, go for it, that kind of thing. And then I started like talking about my experience with other of my coworkers, and a few of them are also autistic. And I'm like, no way, that's really cool. We're like cut from the same cloth. Hello. And it makes me feel really good to know that like I'm in a place where disabilities are not a punishment and more of a celebration, and that when you tell people, they're just like, oh, okay, cool, instead of imploring you or being invasive or being weird about it. No one has once been weird about it at my current place of work.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's really good that we're seeing better recognition, better acceptance of these things. So and yeah, there's some talk in the chat saying that, like, you know, asking about your disabilities or discriminating on disabilities, it should be, well, if it's not illegal, it should be, in my opinion.
I think it is illegal. I think it is illegal.
I think
Well,
it depends by jurisdiction. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a legal expert, but you know,
yeah, they didn't
every state
ask
has
me
their
if
own
I have.
laws. Every country has their laws. So
They didn't ask me if I have a disability. They were just like, you put not specified, do you need supports?
yeah.
And that's something I never heard of before in an interview. Usually they just like ignore that. So it's nice that they asked me if I needed supports. And I think it's because the person interviewing mentioned before that they had someone who was who was hard of hearing and needed like a special $300 stethoscope that would connect to their phone so that they could visually see how it looked like on their phone, and so that they of course could also hear the heartbeats when doing like blood pressure and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
We're all
typically,
glad that your new job is working out for you.
Yeah,
yes.
I'm living.
And also, like,
Yay.
part of me feels like I just want to put everything up front. And if they're going to discriminate me based on one thing or another, then it's probably not a place I want to work anyway. Now, I recognize that is a position coming from immense privilege as someone who like doesn't have to take the job. But if you can be in that position, you know, it's better that you find out before you get hired if it's a place that you even want to be. So that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. So we wanted to talk about stream things. We have 3 trans neurospicy streamers talking about that, which I think is so fun. So BulbaBoy, what is it like for you being a trans and neurodivergent content creator? Do you have any streams that focus on being AuDHD? I'm thinking about your Memory Loss Mondays content.
Yes.
and
Oh,
what the
perfect.
whole
Because I was
deal
gonna
is
say,
with that.
isn't every stream just like focusing on that? Because most of the time I don't have any sort of agenda. I just fly by the seat of my pants. I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna play this game, and that's it. I usually start my streams with like a 30 minutes of just chatting, and it's whatever whims pop into my mind at that time. Could be anything from like talking about food to talking about like the most niche topic you've ever heard of. But now that you mention it, Memory Loss Mondays is a slot that I have, of course, on Mondays, which I'm not doing today. That's okay. I had to work anyway. Memory Loss Mondays is me playing games that I played earlier in my life, but don't remember playing because that's the way the brain goes. You forget things, even if you fondly remember them. So, for example, the first one I did was Pokemon X. And I remembered playing that game. I just didn't remember any of the details about it. Like, did I remember any of the gym leaders? No. Did I remember much of the plot? Barely. And it felt really nice to play it again. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember why I forgot this game. I didn't enjoy it. And then I did BioShock, which I played twice and still never remembered. And it felt good to play the game, remember the game, and then also finish it because I had never finished it before. And then now I'm playing Pokemon Moon, which I played in college and also forgot a lot of. And I'm like, this is a really good game. How come I didn't remember any of it? So now I'm in the process of compiling a spreadsheet to remember more games. So I also do that with cartoons, actually, because Miriam mentions doing it with books. I think I've only done that twice with a book.
Yeah, I end up doing the same thing with a lot of games. So I don't know if you've done this, but I went back and played a bunch of RPGs that I grew up with, where you get to like customize your character. And you know, when I played them originally, I played as a male character, and I went back and I wanted to play it the right way as a female character. So I don't know if you have the same experience.
I've been thinking about it actually, because one of my coworkers just started playing Dragon Age again, and I loved those games so much. All of the BioWare games are so queer friendly, and I was like, oh, maybe I should start playing Dragon Age again as a guy this time.
Nice.
And see, like, except my favorite character in the first one doesn't romance other guys, and I'm just like, no, who would I romance then? But that's okay.
Yeah, no,
I could also
that's
mod.
so like I'm very familiar with the BioWare games because like I mean I grew up playing like Baldur's Gate and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I mean they've definitely gotten better over time, but like in terms of like queer romances, there really weren't any. In fact, if you played as a female character in Baldur's Gate 2, you could only romance one character in the original version of the game. And, it's just like, yeah, it's like girls don't play these games. Here, have a throwaway romance character.
hate it.
But yeah, I
Terrible.
got to rewrite my headcanon, which was very affirming for me. So I assume that was also very affirming for you to play as the correct gender.
Yeah, for sure. Like even with games like Pokemon, now I'm playing as a boy, and I'm like, oh
Mm.
wow, the characters actually look like me, because like growing up, I also had short hair, and most video games where you play as a female, there's not a lot of short haircuts.
Yeah.
Like I had a Beatles mop top most of my teen years, and so I would just either play with a Lord Farquaad haircut. Be like, that's the shortest this goes. Come on.
Aw. Well, thankfully, games have gotten much better than in that respect in recent years. You definitely can customize way more, and a lot of games also give you non-binary options these days, which is nice to see.
And Menenja's correct. Pokemon does have a lot of gendered language, and I
Yes.
wish
Oh my God.
they would chill out on it.
Yes.
Like,
I feel like a lot of that has to do with it's getting translated from Japanese,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of gendered language baked into Japanese. Like the honorific you use is dependent on the gender of the person you're addressing.
which is funny because the Japanese language as a whole has a lot less gendering than the Romance languages.
Yeah.
And Nana's right. They managed to do it with Animal Crossing. They should be able to do it with Pokemon.
Yeah. Now, how do you feel that your intersectionality sets you back as well as sets you forward in your goals?
I always imagined myself, okay, whenever we all start streaming, we all have that image in our head of us being at like hitting partner goals and being like, yeah, thank you, 200 people, etc. And I've been like, that would be nice. But then at the same time, I'm like, I don't think I could manage that many people at once and be that level of entertaining. And then I see the level of operating full-time streamers have, where some of them will keep track of every single chatter and like even hit them up on whatever website they're on and be like, hey, I haven't seen you in stream in a couple of weeks, how are you doing, are you okay, that kind of thing. And it's like, that's an extreme level of dedication, and the routine that some of these people put in, the level of planning and just like preparation and down to the minute, the amount of work people will put into their streams. It's like, I don't have that time or the energy, but at the same time, because I am that kind of intersectional person, it makes me not necessarily an icon, but that's the best word I can think of right now, is that I can be an icon for others, or someone that they can easily recognize. They'll be like, oh, hey, that person is just like me. I don't see a lot of representation on popular media featuring people like me. You look at the top streamers on Twitch and they're all mostly cishet white guys. It's like, oh, that's kind of boring. Where's the queer people, the trans people, the spicy people, where are those people at? I want to watch a stream where the streamer is having so much fun that they got to do a little stim, and that they say random things through Sing Song and Echolalia in the games, because I feel like Echolalia is one of them that like I love repeating the sounds in the games that I'm playing. And luckily with like, especially Nintendo has a lot of very fun sounds to repeat.
Yes.
So a moment ago, we were discussing gender in Japanese versus English, and we actually have some helpful information from Menenja saying that it's not as common in Japanese as in English to gender folks. So here's some examples. Like Master and Miss that are used in Scarlet and Violet, they use sama and san, which are both gender neutral. The kun and chan are for more intimate relationships, so it shouldn't come up nearly as much as it does.
Mhm.
Yeah. And Menenja's in the middle of multiple Pokemon games for research purposes at the moment, so it's a hot topic in Thon's brain. Yay.
Yay.
Thanks for the clarification. I was wrong.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah, because I only took like a little bit of Japanese. That's another memory loss thing. I took Japanese in college, took 2 semesters of it. I was like, oh, this is fun and I like this. And then I wanted to relearn it again during COVID quarantine. So I re-downloaded Duolingo, practiced a little bit of it, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then I liked the fact that, you don't use gender a lot. I think watashi and boku are some words that are gendered, but like they don't have to be. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
now I'm taking French on Duolingo, and you have to remember the gender of every single word, and it's
Oh, yes.
obnoxious. It's just like,
It's even worse in German because German has 3 genders.
oh, I love being the German gender of neuter.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's so like in my job, so I work in the Canadian government where we do a lot of like English to French translations, and whenever we have to do stuff that has to do with queer issues, it can be difficult because there's a lot of words in French that are gendered. So it makes translations kind of awkward sometimes. So we kind of have to like invent new words, or which the French language authority people don't really like. So
Yeah, like even then I was reading an article about different ways neopronouns being introduced into French. Like there's el, I think is how it's pronounced. It's like IEL. It's like a combination
yeah,
of el and l. But at the same time, it's like, what if you want a pronoun that's separate, that's not a combination of 2 already existing pronouns? It's like, because the language is so different, you need to find something that flows just as smoothly, that you can also use. First of all, with el and l, you also have to pluralize it. And that's why I like on, but that's also meaning we, but it's like a informal we. So it's just like, you got to find a word that flows well and can conjugate well and all that. And
yeah, no, it's definitely a challenge.
Yeah. It's where English has the leg up. It's so, you don't have to put too much effort into the conjugation.
Yeah, and English is kind of allowed to change and evolve a little bit more because French, both in Canada and in France, are very highly regulated languages. Like there's like there's literal like authorities of people who like get to decide what gets to be in the language and what doesn't. So whereas English is a little bit more lax with that kind of stuff.
It also makes me think French doesn't even have as much like slang as well. Like there is slang, but like
there's a ton of slang.
But it's also not, they don't teach it, and then also it's hard to learn it as well. So
yeah,
like
that's
this morning I was trying to think of how I would translate the song I Wear My Sunglasses at Night, and I was like, j'apporte ma lunette de soleil à nuit.
yeah.
And then I was like, okay, but then at the part I was like, don't switch a blade on the guy in shades, and I'm like, I don't know the word for blade, and I don't know the word for shades. So I was looking up shades, and it's all like shades as in a ghost, or shades as in you're in the shade from the sun, or shades as in like shades you put in your window, but not like shades as in on your face. So you'd have to like be more of an authority on French slang, which you can't necessarily do as a beginner learner. Just enjoys taking a song and mixing around the words just to have fun.
And there's, I mean, that kind of goes for translation between any 2 languages. There's just some slang that just isn't going to translate. There's some concepts that aren't going to translate. So like, this is where like loan words come in and stuff like that. So like my favorite loan word ever is Schadenfreude, which we don't have a word for in English, but I think it's a wonderful concept. I love it.
I think I read somewhere that the Inuit language has over 8, maybe 10 different words for snow, which as a native Vermonter, I think about how we would describe snow in comparison to like its texture. So like my favorite was corduroy, because it's like, oh, I don't want to wear corduroy pants, but yes, I want to play in corduroy snow because it's thick and it's packy. But like if you say, oh, it's really corduroy out to someone from like Florida, they'd be like, huh? They wouldn't understand that snow has different textures. So that's why snow needs to have that many words. And then, oh, wow, I hate the English language only having 1 word for love, because you can love your wife and you can love ice cream, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, yeah, because like we differentiate between romantic love and platonic love and love for an object or whatever, but it's the same word for all of those things. And this is like something that I like to bring up quite a lot is just the language when it comes to queer issues and trans issues is when you lack the language for something, you aren't able to describe it. And that's something that really kind of delayed my personal journey because I didn't have the language to describe the feelings that I had. So language is a really powerful thing. If you don't have the words to describe a concept, then that concept might as well just not exist to you. And
Exactly.
that's kind of how that's certain groups are trying to erase certain language from our society in an effort to erase those concepts.
Don't
Mhm.
erase me. I'll
Yeah,
find you.
no.
But like I wanted to learn sign language, and me and my partner Nana still want to learn sign language. We want to take it at a community college. And I wanted to know what the sign for transgender was. And it's like even then the sign language community isn't sure entirely on what word is. So I've been using change boy man. I don't remember what
I
change. I think change
love
was like
that so much.
you cross over your heart like this, and then I think it was boy man. I may have gotten that severely wrong, and I'm so sorry. And I'm sorry, audio listeners, for not seeing how I'm taking my hand and I'm cupping it and then crossing it over my heart. And then I'm taking my fingers in like a pinch over my forehead and then bringing it down over my chin. And that's change boy man.
Oh my God. I'm gonna start referring to myself as a man change woman.
Beautiful.
So, Bulba Boy, how has your identity helped you in learning to love yourself and others? What are some examples of kindness practices on your channel? Because I know you have some. I just
Do.
basically want you to brag about it now.
Uh, there's a couple of things that I do for kindness. For example, I have a compliment booth on my streams. I think that's the one that Meowster's referring to the most. Because I think about how we don't really allow ourselves to be complimented. And I'm the kind of person who hates receiving compliments, but I try to give them as often as possible. And that almost makes me more receptive to compliments in the future because it's like, oh, I did something good for someone. Maybe then I do karmically deserve a compliment. And it's like I don't give compliments to receive compliments, but it's just like it makes me feel like, oh, maybe I do, maybe I am a worthy person of complimenting. So like for example, say we are live on my stream right now and you redeemed, I think it's 2,000 points, and you say, I want to be complimented. And then I would switch over to a scene where I put my webcam in the Peanuts comics psychiatry booth.
Oh,
But it just says free compliments or compliments $2,000. The streamer is real in. And then I give like a compliment to whoever redeemed. So I'd be like, oh yeah, GenderMeowster, thank you so much for coming into my community. I really appreciate all the kindness that you bring and all the friends that you try to put on to this community and making them feel safe and blah blah blah. And then I would talk about all the wonderful things about your character as a person as well. And then usually everyone gets misty-eyed or is like, oh wow, I never thought of that person in that way. And it's like really nice to think of that. So then I try to find a way to compliment myself later in the day as well. And then the other thing I like to do in my streams, this comes from uh it's not a tradition per se, but there's this streamer that he doesn't stream as often anymore, but back in 2021, like early on in 2021, his name was Cashflow. And Cash would always say, every time he saw me, he would always say, I love you. And like make eye contact with the camera and say, I love you, but like, like it clearly, like he's the kind of guy, I always describe him as the kind of guy you'd feel safe leaving your drink alone with at a bar. Like he's a real ally and like super productive and like a cool bro. He's like your typical New Jersey bro, but like he's so inclusive and kind and sweet. And it's like, you don't really expect that from that kind of personality. You expect to typecast that kind of person as like some jerk you would find as an extra on American Pie or something. But he always said, I love you, because I remember mentioning early on in a stream that his spaces were a safe space of mine because I felt safe being here. And he never made me feel like I was alone, because at the time I was going through a lot of things, feeling very alienated in my home life because things weren't safe there. And then the people that I was still in the process of building up my Twitch community. So I didn't have like a real steady group of people yet. And so every time I popped into a stream, he'd be like, TheBulbaBoy, I love you. How are you today doing, man? You know, all that kind of stuff. And like, whenever I leave, he'd say, I love you, you know, that kind of thing. So I make sure that at the end of every single stream, I tell everybody that I love them. So I'd be like,
Aw.
if you have not heard it yet today, I want you to know that I love you. Because it's true. All these people come into my streams. They don't have to. They don't have to hang out with me. They're not obligated to watch me be a silly little goof on the internet, laughing at my own whim brain jokes. And they don't have to watch me ramble, but they do anyway. And the fact that they do that is such a deep appreciation as someone who had a really hard time making friends as a kid. And like, I'm not friends with anybody from high school still, you know, not friends with anyone from elementary school. None of my childhood friends are around in my life because I didn't really have any, you know, they didn't stick around, or it's hard being a neurodivergent person and keeping friends. So it's just like, I really truly mean it now when I say I love you, because it's like I am around people that also love me, and they may not use that word, but you can tell it is a form of love.
Now, oh my God. I literally, I had a little autism moment there where my brain just like stopped working.
Oh no, you're fine. You're overwhelmed by the love.
Yes. Oh my God. So yeah, that happens to me sometimes, especially this late at night. So normally we record like, 8 hours ago. By this time of night, my brain is just like, no, we're done. That's it. No more. But we do have more questions.
Oh, you're fine.
Is it your meds time, Miranda? Do you need a moment
In
to
about
take your
25
meds?
minutes. Yeah,
Okay.
25 minutes is
Is-
time for 5 minutes.
Because I know in the case of my autistic ADHD trans woman wife, if she doesn't have her HRT, her brain stops. And it's like,
Yes.
nope, no estrogen, no brain go zoom. It's like, okay, but take your
I notice
meds,
I get
honey.
anxious if I don't take my tea.
Yeah. But on the day that I do take my tea, I get very productive. And often I want to like do yard work or something. I'm like, let's do something. We gotta do something. There's no sitting around right now.
Let's
Gotta
go
do
chop a
also,
log.
I also stream around this time, and you can tell when my brain is starting to slow down and like it's starting to shut off, because I'm just like, I'll like trail off mid-sentence where I'm just like, my brain just like we're done. And then like I get to the point, it's like, oh, we're calling the stream, brain no work no more.
Yeah, that's why I use because I normally stream at the 7 p.m., 8 p.m. bracket and go until about 11, sometimes 11:30 if I'm really into the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I have like a spoon meter that I have on my streams. It's just like an oblong shape with a slider of 1 to 10, and then I use a tiny little Bulbasaur icon that I place where I'm feeling at the time. So like today I'd say I'm probably at like 6 spoons. Never been at 10 spoons on a stream because I stream late in the day. I'd say like if it was like an early stream and I had just taken my ADHD meds, I'd be like probably a 8, 9, maybe a 10 if I was lucky and had like 6 shots of espresso or something. But like that's a really good thing to do, because then I'm also checking in with myself and I'm like, am I stable right now? And it's really interesting because like this is not my layout, so you don't see what my spoon level is. And I heavily implore anyone who also streams, you can do that. I took that idea from the streamer Cecilia, and she puts her spoons up on her streams because she also is a disability advocate. And it's just like so helpful. Like if you are low energy, your chat should know. And I know with like some streamers, they put up a ping tuber if they are in low energy and don't want to put face cam on.
Yeah.
It's like if I am low energy, because I don't put my ring light on. You see it in my glasses, it's reflecting. Like, because when I have low energy, I also start to develop a migraine. So it's just like turn the ring light off, let everyone know I'm low energy and I'm on the verge of a migraine, but I still have the energy to be funny.
Awesome. Now, as people on the spectrum, we tend to have a lot of special interests that we tend to hyper focus on. What are some of your special interests these days?
Oh boy. Special interests are always fluctuating. Typically, my whole life has usually been some flavor of music. So,
Yay.
like, as a little kid, I was always interested in how my dad would listen to classic rock in the car. And as an adult now, I'm looking back and I'm like, oh, I remember this song that my dad made me listen to. And I'm like, I remember this song and this song. And I find myself remembering the exact feeling I had when I would listen to those songs as a kid. So, like, for example, I think about what's that song? It's by 10cc, The Things We Do for Love. I remember my dad playing that song on a road trip, and it felt so good hearing that song. And then I heard it again as an adult, and I'm like, the song is so familiar, and it gave me this like flashback to drinking cherry cola in the back of the car on a hot sunny day, and it felt so good. So it's like songs have flavors to them based on how I felt when I heard them the first time. But now I'm like such a genre diver. Like, I still listen to classic rock and the various divisions of classic rock, but now I'm like listening to various forms of alternative and like ska and punk and Midwest emo and all kinds of stuff like that. But I also like jazz, and I also like video game jazz and modern jazz and old time jazz standards, and then like the oldies from like the 40s and the 50s, like the World War II era and the uranium era. Music like that is always so good. And then I also just love what lo-fi has done with remixing and all kinds of stuff like that. Like, I could go on and on and on about the various genres of music I listen to because it's so complicated. And then like my other hyperfixations, I really love cartoons. I live with someone who is a cartoonist, and it's just like, cartoons are amazing. There's so many of them. And the very fact is that there's such a hard process to develop that it's just an endless deep dive. It's like there's always more you can learn about each cartoon. So, like, for example, there's this thing floating around Twitter that is how Flapjack changed the course of cartoons. And it's like this graph showing all the animators on Flapjack went to making Adventure Time, and people from Adventure Time went to making Bravest Warriors, and Natasha Allegri making Being Puppy Cat, and Rebecca Sugar making Steven Universe, and one of the other animators making Infinity Train, and then one of these other animators, Ian Jones Cordy, making OKKO, and one of the other animators making Craig of the Creek, and all those. It's just like, it's endless how each cartoon just flows into one another. Or like, if it wasn't for Gravity Falls, we wouldn't have the Owl House. And it's just like, there's so many behind the scenes stuff with all of those cartoons that you're like, I just need more. I just need more of it. I just need more of it. I just love media. Same with video games. Like, my favorite is Nintendo, obviously. Like, I love Nintendo so much because it has that nostalgia factor. It's like, because there's so many games, there's so much to learn. And it's just like, oh, I need to know how this game was made and what happened in translation. Like, I like playing I've been playing Paper Mario lately as my latest off-stream game. And it's like, how did they translate this? What did they censor in the English version? And now that they're doing a remake of Super Mario RPG, I'm like, what are they going to censor? Because they could get away with so much more in the 90s.
Yeah, definitely. That a lot of that stuff sounds very familiar as someone who also likes to hyperfixate on things. So, I mean, I could probably turn this into a music podcast of just talking about various musical genres and different things.
For sure.
And, yeah. So, but yeah, that's like one of those things that I just like didn't realize that like neurotypical people just don't do. Because like I remember growing up, like my parents always be like, "Oh, you're obsessed with this. You're obsessed with like what? I'm obsessed. I just really like this thing." and I want to learn everything I can about it. Isn't that what everyone does?
Like my favorite band growing up was They Might Be Giants, which, you know, like my parents were like, are you sure you don't want to listen to a different band? Because they're weird and quirky and their music is very silly and off the beaten path. But like it's introspective and deep and everything has different meanings to it, even if it's just really silly. So like I wallpapered one of my walls in the room with the family printer by printing off all kinds of different pictures, like album covers as the border, because They Might Be Giants is such a long history as a band, you know. So I like was like, oh, this will make the perfect border, and then I like pictures of them like with each album throughout the years, you know, so like pictures of them way back in the early 1980s and then all the way up until like recent, you know, like at the time it was right after Here Comes Science comes out. So it's like pictures of them basically, you know, in their 50s. And my mom's like, why you spend all this time caring about these old men that make music that's just bizarre? And I'm like, it makes my brain feel good, Mom.
Yeah.
I've seen them in concert 4 times and I'll do it again.
Of course. I mean, that seems like completely reasonable behavior to me. I mean,
I know, right? Or like your obsession's unhealthy. Or like when I was obsessed with Dark Souls, for example, I would find things in real life to relate to Dark Souls, and my mom would be like, "Shut up! This isn't Dark Souls." And I'm like, "Yes, it is." And I still do that, and it drives everyone nuts. I'll be playing a game, and someone in chat, I'll be like, "This is just like Dark Souls," and someone will be like, "God, he did it again!" Like I played Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and spoilers, but no spoilers, when it gets intense later on and your character has a giant sword, I was like, oh, this is just like Dark Souls. You have to dodge roll and you get that giant sword and the music's intense and there's fire everywhere.
Oh my God. Like I do the exact same thing with Star Trek. I can always find some way to relate things back to Star Trek. Like people who hang around me who've never seen Star Trek, they just like don't get any of my references.
They don't get it.
Fine. I'm doing this for my own benefit.
It's a type of communicating in memes from media that you have consumed.
Yes.
It's a very autistic trait or behavior. Like I think at one point Capybara even found an article describing how there's this certain subtype or subgroup of like autistic people who communicate with memes, which is very Star Trek of them. Have you seen the Star Trek
Yes.
episode where they're communicating? I always forget the names of the things.
It's the
Sounds like something out to Nagra.
Yeah, the episode title is Darmok.
Darmok, yeah.
Where Captain Picard and the captain of an alien ship are trapped on an alien planet, and the aliens speak only in metaphor, and then he has to try to learn their language in order to survive.
I love it. I'm like that with memes. Like I was thinking about because I also still work a person facing position. I'm a phlebotomist. So I have to talk to the people that I'm poking, obviously. Sometimes, you have to make a little small talk or else they just kind of look at you funny. Like if they're just talking about like the political climate, I have no interest. They're talking about how the day is going. I have no interest because I don't like small talk. But I remember one time, the machine we use makes a lot of boops and beeps. And when you're finished with your donation, it will make a sound that sounds like game over, but in like when you win the game. Okay. And this one donor was like, oh, this is just like in Mario. And I was like, oh, Mario. Like third eye activated. And we just started talking about the Mario movie that I had seen in theaters 4 times.
You're just like, greetings, fellow Nintendo enjoyer.
Yeah. Or like today, I was like, yeah, I kind of want to donate my platelets, but it's a 3-hour process and you have to have both your arms hooked up. So I can't even play my Switch because you're not allowed to move your arms. And then he was like, oh yeah. And then he like pulled open his cargo short pocket and I saw his Switch hanging out in his pocket. And I was like, hello.
You'd have to have 3 hours of podcast loaded up in your earbuds. That's the only way I would survive that.
Or like one of my favorite
3 hours awake without my arms. The use just put me to sleep.
Right?
Yeah, right.
That sounds like death to my brain. Just like
and they got Netflix on in the donation room, but it's just like what if it's not something I like watching? What if they put on
Right?
a baseball game? Ew.
Ew.
Like one of my favorite podcasts, it's called Today's Lucky Winner, and one of the characters is an asexual autistic person, and they have a mission they have to go on inside of a strip club, and they're like, I don't have interest in any of this thing, but then they see one of the people working there has a Star Trek, or it was either Star Trek or what's that other one that's really popular? I just had it in my brain, but that's okay. They had like a tattoo based on that piece of medium that they also hyperfixate on. So they spent like the majority of the time that they should have been doing a reconnaissance mission, info dumping about it was Stargate, Battlestar Galactica. Yeah, Battlestar
Oh, okay.
Galactica.
Yeah.
They,
It's one of those space shows.
yeah, they set. Well, my dad's hyperfixation is Star Trek, so I get you. But the main character just info dumps with this sex worker about Battlestar Galactica and her tattoo, and she's supposed to be on a reconnaissance mission helping her friend, and she's not, and it's just like hashtag same.
Now, are there any are there any things that you wish society at large knew about being trans as well as being neurodivergent?
I mean, like, this is one that I like to say the most is I'm just a little guy. Dude, that's my catchphrase.
Just a little guy.
I'm just a little guy, and that's what I want to say to the government. I'm just a little guy. Like, why do you have to treat me different because my downstairs doesn't match what you think it's supposed to look like? It's like, why do you care? Why do you care so much about how my body looks? Why do you care so much about what I do in my private time? It's not any of your business. Society, a government, why do you care? And it's like the same with being autistic and ADHD. It's like, why are you trying to gatekeep what I need in order to be a thriving member of society, air quote, whatever the standard like society's definition of functioning? It's like, you want me to function in your society and participate in capitalism like you want me to, then don't get rid of the things that make me feel like a human being. Don't erase those things from me, because I need those, even if it's something as quite simple as testosterone and ADHD medication. And it's like, unfortunately, those are both scheduled drugs, so it's just like you gotta go through hoops just to get those things. It's like,
I know. Oh my
those make me
gosh.
comfortable, those make me function.
Yeah. And like something that I find frustrating about how those drugs are scheduled is like you have to get reauthorized either every year or every 3 months or sometimes even every month. And so like right now I'm in this back and forth with my doctor, who also has ADHD, about like, hey, like, one, there's a shortage of ADHD meds in this country right now. And so like my physician will write a script, and then I went and got it filled, but it was for half a month. But then the script was filled. So then I have to get another script for the next however long, because my 13 days worth of meds is run out. So it's just like, like I need my brain to work. Why is this so hard?
It's like they claim it's addictive as well. It's like, if it's so addictive, how come I forgot to take it 2 days in a row? It's like the same with like my testosterone. It's like, oh yeah, if it's so dangerous, how come how come I'm not having anger issues and doing horrible things to being misogynistic, for example? It's like, that's not what the chemical does.
That's not the testosterone. That's the toxic masculinity part of our society that's doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, I'm not going to respect women anymore now that I stab myself with a needle once a week.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, testosterone's a hell of a drug. Let me tell, like, I know,
I want to cry and I can't.
So it definitely can definitely give you some behavioral changes. Let's put it that way. But in terms of like your respect for people and your values, that's part of you. If that's a problem, it's a you problem.
Exactly.
BulbaBoy, do you have a favorite part about your channel? Being on Twitch, making content, playing games with your pals on the internets. Like,
That's
is
the
there a
hardest
favorite?
question.
I know it is hard.
Because I love it all. I guess an abstract thing I could say is I love watching myself grow. So for example, I offload all of my VODs onto YouTube after I've played them. So I've been rewatching all of my Zelda VODs because for those who don't know, I'm playing all the Legend of Zelda games in release order. When I first hit affiliate back in November of 2020, my best friend Nana was like, I want you to play all the Zelda games because I had never played them before. I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So I started playing them all. And I'm still not done because I do it once a week to avoid burnout, like chronological order doesn't exist. I'm sorry. I think that the whole timeline order is heavily up for debate at this point. I know Nintendo has its own canon, but it's just like,
Yeah.
I wanted to play them in release order so that I could play them as they change and improve, because it's like, I don't want to start with Skyward Sword, which is supposedly the first game in the series, because like that game is fairly recent. I wouldn't want to go back to the first game and be like, this isn't as good because it didn't have the 3D experience. So like, but I play it once a week to avoid burnout. So I got like 3-4 more games to go. I'm in a Link Between Worlds, so I just have to get through that one, Triforce Heroes, and then Breath of the Wild, then Tears of the Kingdom. And it's like, I haven't played any of the Zelda games before anyway, so it's all fresh, and I love watching everyone's reactions to me as I play these games. They're like, oh yeah, back when I played that game, and having everyone take turns babysitting me is what I like to say, because everyone has played these games before me. Unraveled game. Yeah. Househeld mentioned that there's an Unraveled episode. David Bryan Gilbert is one of my gender goals, by the way. He's so handsome and beautiful and wonderful and hilarious.
I love that.
And so like, I'm still watching the VODs from, like, I just finished watching my Majora's Mask VODs. And it's like, I had just gotten in a stable living position at that time, like finally had my mental health kind of not be in a state of, oh my God, my life is almost in a precarious situation where I won't have a home or don't have people to care about me. So it's like at the point where I finally have a solid community, and I love watching myself, like re-experiencing watching as I watch myself develop those memories with all those people, and then also like improve on how I am playing games and how I am making friends and socializing and just everything, because it brings me back to reminiscing. So it's just wonderful to see how there's so many memories behind each game for me that not everyone realizes, but they share their memories with me when I'm playing. So it's like, now I can look back in the same perspective that the other people had while watching me play.
Yeah, that's something I recommend. If you're not already doing this, every streamer, you should probably go back and watch some of your old VODs. Like, I mean, I end up watching old VODs because like I upload my stuff to YouTube as well. And there's often like a few month lag between when I stream and when it goes up. So, but then it's like you watch these old VODs like, oh yeah, that happened. Yeah, it's fun. And so it's something that like every like streamer, you should go back and watch your old stuff and see how you've grown as as a content creator, and see kind of like your trajectory that you've had, and like I guarantee there's been some fun stuff in your past that you forgot about. So
yeah, like for example, I think about how in the earlier games, like super early, when I was playing like the first Zelda, the second Zelda, A Link to the Past, and then it started going away around Link's Awakening, I self-deprecated so much on stream. Like I would call myself stupid and an idiot all the time, and I'm like, stop calling yourself that. I watched myself call me those words, and I'm like, you need to be nicer to yourself. And now I catch myself, if I think those thoughts, I'm like, oh no, I'm just a silly goose, or head empty, no thoughts, it's okay. Or, I got a low spoon, so it's okay that I'm not like at the peak of puzzle solving right now. So it's like nice that I've given myself that grace. And it's cool to see how much I've healed.
No, and that's something you should definitely be very proud of, because being kind to yourself is a lot harder than it looks. And it's something I definitely struggle
that little
with
guy right there, he's so smart. What the heck? You may not think so, but heck he is.
Yeah, no, you should definitely be proud of that. Did we want to jump to our concluding questions?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
In chat, as a reminder, if you have anything you would like to ask our wonderful guest, feel free to type it in the chat here or in the AMA questions in the server, which there are some, but I haven't checked that channel. There we go.
I'm also just so I can take my meds.
Yeah, if you need to step away for a moment, Miranda, to take care of that.
Oh no, I prep these ahead of time because I'm organized.
Nice.
Take them if you got them. Ooh.
Sunbury has a very important question. Why is Holden so stinking cute?
No, you.
I like saying "and you" with that. Like I know it's like the Uno reverse card, and like and back at you. But I like saying "and you" because it's like I accept the compliment and I also reflect it back to you instead of like deflecting it, right? So I'm like
my other favorite one to do is I say,
at the same time.
I said, you should say that to yourself while looking in a mirror.
Nice. Son says, also he's literally talking nice to me. So get nice at nerd.
Aw.
Well, you know what? You deserve it. So
I think sometimes people get you and I mixed up. Like they think we're the same streamer sometimes.
Yeah.
Because we have similar
really like tiny one, shorter beard and glasses.
I mean, I have a beard. I could put on my glasses. We could.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'4".
Okay, I'm 5 flat.
5 flat.
Put me in your pocket.
Oh
Ooh, they out here with the yellow ones.
I also have a pair of glasses that I wear sometimes when my eyes are starting to hurt.
Where's my other pair?
I don't know how long I'll wear these for because I'm going to start sweating immediately.
I have like 1,000 black pairs.
My lenses are not quite right, so everything's a little fuzzy now. I'm like, wait a minute.
I don't wear these ones often because they're too big, but I'll wear these if there's a fancy occasion. And then I have another pair over here somewhere, but I don't wear them because they're crusty because they have Starbucks syrup on them.
Capybara is 5'10".
You're so tall.
Did you ever figure out if you're taller or shorter than Capybara?
You can put me in your pocket.
I thought Cappy was taller than me, but she might.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'11".
There you go.
But I might have shrunk since being on HRT because I haven't like seen how tall I am in a while.
You're almost a full foot ahead of me.
Yeah. It's to be a pain because finding gender appropriate clothing for someone as tall as me is kind of a pain.
But hashtag same, because men's pants, I am like a 30 by 28 and most pants are 30 by 30. So it's just like, how do I find pants for someone who's short and small waisted, but also accommodates for my slightly wider hips and very round butt? So it's just like,
Well, it's because you can always make clothes smaller. Because
Yes.
you can hem those pants, you can tailor them, whatever. Making clothes bigger is a challenge. So, because I used to be quite a big boy, and I would have to hem my pants quite often because for some reason people who make clothes, they assume that people grow in equal proportions, which is not true. So I would buy pants, and it's like, are these pants for a giraffe? They are way too long.
Oh man.
So yes, I frequently employed the services of a tailor.
It's like, I also know how to sew, but it's like, do I have the brain capacity to bust out the sewing machine? And I probably do one sewing project a year because it's so much energy just to make something.
So much energy.
And the cat just has to sit on the pattern And he thinks he's helping. It's like, no, buddy, no, stop it. No, you're in the way.
No, the punnery has started. We'll be here forever.
I'm
All right,
obsessed.
I have to take these off because I am sweating. It's so hot in my apartment right now.
We're all just gonna take a shower after stream's over.
Oh my god.
So, Holden, is there anything we missed about AuDHD that you'd like to make sure that you get a chance to say?
You're loved and you're valid, buddy. If you
Yeah.
even if you can't like afford to get any sort of formal diagnosis, even if you want it, it's okay. You can be peer reviewed. You're valid. If you think you got it, you probably got it. If you look at diagnostic criteria and it largely fits you, you got it. Don't let somebody who makes 80K or more a year gatekeep you from knowing yourself, because you know you more than anyone else knows you. And be confident in yourself.
It's lovely.
Can you share an experience that you've had with gender euphoria?
Besides the one where I put the makeup on and I was like, oh my God, I look like my dad. I think one of the earliest, this is a really early, like super early transition, maybe like 4 months on T. Like so me and Nana we used to watch this sitcom called One Day at a Time. And one of the characters in that show is canonically non-binary. And there's an episode where they have to have their mom is forcing them to have a quinceañera, and they don't want to have the typical quinceañera where they have to wear a big poofy dress and dance with a boy. And so their very traditional grandmother is like, you will wear a dress and dance with a boy. And their mom's like, I don't really want to pull strings, but you're unhappy. And in the end, they take the bodice of the dress to make like a cool shirt, and then they get to wear pants and a sport coat, and they look amazing. And they're still using the article of clothing that was gifted to them from their Nana says that's where their egg cracked. That was an important moment for them figuring out their gender. But in watching that, I was like, I haven't worn masculine formal wear. So like I ran to my closet quickly, and I had this like very ill-fitting sport coat that I got at the Goodwill, and that like it fit my torso but not my baby arms. And I put on some black jeans because that's the closest thing I had to black sport suit pants. And I didn't own a tie, and I don't think I still own a tie, but I had like clip-on bow ties I got from wish.com, and I put that over. I clipped it around my collar, and I just kind of like looked at myself, and I was like, oh my God, that's a handsome man. And I like got very misty, and my face got red. I might have been crying, but I was like, oh my God, I am finally a handsome man and not some gross thing forced to wear a dress and wanting to cry and go home and be alone. So, and it's nice that we both had gender euphoria from watching that show at the same time.
Oh, I love that.
It's a lovely story.
Clothing is, I mean, it seems silly, but clothing is it's so powerful. Like, just being able
and
to
representation.
yourself. Yeah, being able to represent, being able to just, play the part that you want to play.
Well, and that bit about representation is part of why I keep streaming, right?
Same.
Like, even when I'm tired, even when whatever, like, basically, if I'm like, I'm too tired, I will be like, I need to find a friend to rope in so that I can take a break. But the content still happens.
The show must go on.
The show must go on.
One of my daily goals, I have a daily goal is I must make one person laugh each day. It's like if someone didn't laugh, then I didn't fulfill my quota of living my best life. And most often that's through streaming. So I'm like, I think about how a lot of members of my community shared some really traumatic experiences in my venting zone. And the fact that I was live, they were like, thank you for being live, because I was having a really miserable time this week. And you made me crack up laughing, like whether it's, someone no longer in their life or something horrible happened to them in the real flesh world instead of the online world and stuff like that. It's nice to know that there's some silly little guy on the internet that wants to make you laugh and make you forget about the horrible things that are happening in the world around you. And I'll be like,
Yeah.
I don't want to stream today. And then I'll look over at Nana and they'll be like, do you feel like you can stream? I'm like, yes and no. And then I'll remember, I'm gonna make this person laugh. They're miserable. They vented today. And then I'll be like, oh fine, I'll stream. I'll just not have the ring light on, and I'll put that I have 3 spoons and stuff. So then I'll just and in the process of trying to make everyone else laugh, I start to feel better. It's wild. It's a good feeling.
It's important.
I gotta make Sunbury laugh every day, or else I didn't fulfill my life. Also, Rylan mentioned Dead End Paranormal Park. Main character is a gay trans guy. And also, the other things about Dead End Paranormal Park is, of course, the creator, Hamish Steele, is a gay autistic person and has a character who is autistic, and you get to watch them experience finding out something that you love is actually horrible. So this character's hyperfixation has to be gone. Like it's like watching how people reacted when Harry Potter was found out to be horrible. But then also there's another character who is pure ADHD. It's fun to watch those characters interact. So it's funny watching shows like Dead End Paranormal Park or Steven Universe or Adventure Time, or there's some other one we watched recently that I don't remember. Oh, Gumball, Amazing World of Gumball. Those are all shows where you can clearly see these characters are some flavor of queer or neurospicy, as you call it. And you're like, that's me. I'm represented. Even if it's not stated, it is so obvious. It is so obvious. Like right now, me and Nana are watching Adventure Time, and there's this episode where Finn needs to be saved by Jake, and every time he tries to get Jake's attention, he's trying to put a ice cream cone into a toaster. I'm like, if that ain't ADHD, I don't know what is. It makes me laugh. I like being represented like that. Finn, you're always focused on partying. Oh man.
It's funny that we both really love cartoons, but we definitely watch very different cartoons.
Yeah.
Well, I think a big part of that is like I'm a bit older, so like the cartoons that I grew up with are probably cartoons that like most people either haven't seen or were already like kind of old by the time that they got around to watching them. So it's like, stuff like The Simpsons, which is still airing new episodes.
Oh, I still love The Simpsons.
Yeah, but it's just like, I make Simpsons references to like, the 90s, and people are just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, like Nana like lives off of Simpsons references, and they'll reference episodes I haven't seen yet, and I'll just be like, okay, like, the two of us could practically recite steamed hams, but like, I'll make references to it's a trampoline. Or like I'm thinking about how I've been on Twitter for 13 years. And
wow.
Having to like wean myself off Twitter is like that episode of Homer with the rotting sandwich that he just won't get rid of. And like it's just like that.
Oh my God, yes. That's exactly what it is. I mean, I've only been on Twitter. I've been on Twitter for less than a year. Like I joined Twitter just in time for He Who Should Not Be Named to come in and ruin it. So
like my entire personality is built around Twitter.
Blue Sky when is Blue Sky coming to save us?
I put in my my what is it called? Put myself on the wait list, and I'm just like, please, any day now.
Yeah, I'm just gonna wait till it goes public. I'll stay on the sinking ship for as long as I have to.
There's also Mastodon and Hive. and
Yeah, I like Hive.
co-host.
I don't like Mastodon because there's so many ways it can go wrong, and like so many things.
I
people
tried.
say
I got onto it once. I'm just like, nope. This
It
is
wouldn't
not
let
for
me make a wouldn't let me make a profile. I was like, fine, whatever. I don't care.
Well, it took
But,
me, it took like 5
Hive-
whole minutes for it to load. I'm just like, no, this
Yeah.
is unusable.
Like
Also,
Hive is cool.
shout out to
but,
the
like,
chat. Monorail. What's that word? Monorail.
Genuine something 6-car monorail.
Oh my god.
Like the thing I don't like about Hive though is not enough people are on it. So it's
Well, and
like
that's the
on
problem.
Twitter,
Like, I mean, you can have the best social media site in the world, but if you don't have any users, it's useless.
yeah, like Twitter,
Yeah.
I'm following 1,019 people.
Yeah.
Hive, I'm following 98 people. So it's like the timeline doesn't update, and I'm just like, I'm bored. I've seen these posts, the same 6 people. It's just like, everybody join Hive, please. Start posting content so I can be entertained.
Aw.
Yes, everyone.
I can recommend some streams and some
cool.
podcasts if you need something to be entertained with.
Yes,
Barry says, I will make more interesting posts, all caps.
I'm gonna bring back Facebook copy pastas from 2008.
Oh no.
If anyone wants podcast recommendations right now, my 2 favorite podcasts are I just had it. I just talked about it. Today's Lucky Winner, which is a word of mouth stream. They don't pay for advertising. They're grassroots. They're very awesome. Made by a cute polycule that's of trans and queer folks trying to escape Texas. But it's like the main character is a autistic asexual person trying to solve their own murder with a Grim Reaper who they're today's lucky winner of being allowed to go back onto the earth for 1 more year with a chaperone, chaperoning Grim Reaper to help them solve their murder. And the character who is the Grim Reaper character, she is so loudly ADHD. Trigger warning talks, of course, a lot about death and a lot of cussing and a lot of drug use. But it is so wholesome and funny and queer, gay, trans characters. One of the main characters is voiced by a trans woman. She plays a lesbian vampire, and
it's my favorite kind of vampire.
It's such a fantastic podcast. My other favorite is Midnight Burger, about a dimension hopping, time traveling dimension hopping diner, and all the things they have to solve, and the way time changes and stuff, and like the personal growth of all the characters and stuff like that. There's no great way to describe that one because it's equally all over the place as well as organized. I don't know. Yes, it's a more today's lucky winner is a morbid accepting sort of there's one streamer, I think her name is Strawberry Shortcake, I think. If that's her, if that's not her, I'm sorry, but this streamer plays games that focus on the topic of death a lot. It's like more not like to bum people out, but to be accepting of the morbid parts of our life. It's like, yeah, this podcast is sort of like that. Yeah, follow those podcasts. Do it.
After you follow this podcast,
Yes.
of course.
Follow Genderful. Is it on Spotify? Because I'm on my way.
Yeah, it is on Spotify.
On my way. I'm pulling it up. Genderful. Oh my gosh, there it is. By GenderMeowster. Boom.
All 93 episodes that exist so far.
This is beautiful. I love this.
I've been
Boom.
re-listening to the first few seasons of Unwell because the latest couple of seasons have come out. Yay. Thanks for the follow. Don't forget to rate 5 stars once you listen to an episode.
Yes.
Yeah, we're actually in
Boost the
terms of
algorithm.
listenership, we are 13 monthly listeners away from monetizing on the podcast. We're so close. You have to get 50. And
Let's
we're at like 30,
go.
we're at like 37. So if 13 more people stream it on Apple or Spotify or whatever, you'll help us get over the line.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got like
Yeah.
100-ish people in my Discord server. I'm about to rope them all in.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Tell everyone you know. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Tell your coworkers. Tell people you don't like.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Miranda and
I'm
I
gonna
actually got
bully
to
people in an
table.
alleyway with a knife to listen to this podcast.
Miranda and I got to table for the show at Trans Pride Seattle this year.
Yes.
Ooh.
We even had a little cute sign and stuff. It was a cute time.
Mhm.
Oh man, it was also exhausting. And this community that participated in the Kamesy Mutual Aid event actually not only fundraised everything we needed for Kamesy, which was incredible. We also paid for my wheelchair. So I did have a chair at Pride, which was a goal that I set last November, and we actually hit that goal. It was incredible. So thank you again to everyone who participated in that, be it financially or by showing up, participating in chat, moderating, making the content that we needed for that event. All of it was incredible. I'm still catching up on sleep, I feel like, from that event a month ago.
Oh yeah,
but-
I'm still like recovering like physically and mentally from that. From the
Yeah,
whole
like I
trip.
just went to New York City Pride and that was a lot. And that's why I took the week off streaming, because I also, all in the span of like 2 weeks, I donated blood for the first time. Then I had a stomach bug and a 101.8 fever. 2 days later, after still having a 99-degree fever, went to New York City, walked around the city with my friends, had a lot of fun, got interviewed by Spectrum News about how much I hate Ron DeSantis. And then decided to take the week off streaming, but still had to function with 10 days worth of stomach bugs. It was fun. Now I'm better, but I'm still tired.
Yeah, it sounds very tiring to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Seattle Trans Pride was fantastic, and it was really cool to see Meowsters zipping around in their chair. They seemed very
Yeah.
happy to be so mobile and able to participate in more things, and that was a lot of fun.
So fun.
Yeah.
I've taken that chair for I've been calling it a zip instead of a walk because I don't know if walk is appropriate. But I've been taking it for a zip over to the lake nearby, like basically every other day since I got it.
Cute.
Like I'd love to go every day, but sometimes it's like by the time I think of it, either the mosquitoes are out or it's just too hecking hot out and I just don't want to. It's like, no, it's too hot. But if I remember and it's the correct time of day, then I'll zip over there and just enjoy the good weather and the lake, and it's been nice.
Yeah. And we got to talk to a lot of people, invited a lot of people to be on our show. So
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil anything, but we talked to some people. So I'm
Nice.
hoping that our guests in the next few months are going to be pretty great.
Time to
We'll
coerce
see.
all of the trans people I know.
To support our local indie podcast, Genderful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I have no
Well.
choice but to pay the $1 Patreon to get on the Today's Lucky Winner Discord server so that I can boost this podcast. Get them to talk about their genders.
And we do have a Patreon, actually. If anyone would like to support us, that's a great way to
I'm on my
give
way.
recurring support to the show. It helps us know that we're going to be able to pay for our recurring expenses, which, means that we actually get to have the cool guests that we have lining up to be on the show on. So I just dropped the link for our Patreon in the chat. You can find it in the link tree anytime. And it's a wonderful way to support us. So my last question for you, BulbaBoy, and if chat has any more, they're welcome to chime in. What would you like to make sure folks know about your perspective on gender and non-binary or trans or gender diverse issues?
Being gender diverse and being neurodivergent is such a subjective experience. There's no one right way to do it. You always think about people on the internet acting like you have to gatekeep this thing, or like trans meds who are like, you have to transition, you have to medically transition in order to be seen as the gender that you think you are, and stuff like that. I'm like, no, that's silly. It's you can be whatever, how you exist and how you identify is valid, whether that means you want to take HRT or you don't, or you want to appear masculine or feminine, or don't want to, or you feel like you have to be strictly androgynous in order to be seen as the exact they them. No, just do what makes you comfortable for yourself. Don't do it because if you don't feel comfortable dressing a certain way or appearing a certain way that would get you gendered properly, you don't have to do that. Do what makes you comfortable. And the same with being neurodivergent. As long as you're in a place to be safe, if you are in a safe home or a safe city or etc., if you are in a place that is safe, feel comfortable unmasking. You know, even if it's unmasking a little bit in your place of work, just a little bit, you know, or unmasking in public locations like your favorite cafe, for example, or a place that you frequent often. Allow yourself to just take that liberty of being free.
Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your wisdomousness.
Thank you. I have high wisdom and not a low. I didn't put enough into my intelligence stat. It's mostly the wisdom.
Well, folks, please do take a moment to drop a follow for the BulbaBoy on Twitch and also Twitter. Where else
And
should we
Hive,
be
now
dropping
that we
follows
have
for
Twitter.
you? Hive, all right, dropping follows on Hive.
It's not on my link tree yet.
Maybe it will be by the time this episode comes out on recorded things.
Yes, I'm on my way.
To those of you who are watching live, I wish you all a very good deafen the noises so you can survive the fireworks happening the next few days.
I love you.
We're live recording this on the 3rd of July, and BulbaBoy loves you. So do I.
I'm giving you all one really big hug with my tiny arms, just wrapping it around everyone who's been in this chat. I'm doing it. Oh, it's a nice tight squeeze. I hope you can feel it.
Oh boy.
So, folks, the BulbaBoy, he, they pronouns, is a neurodivergent transgender Twitch streamer who loves comedy, chaos, and charity. He loves to provide a safe space for anyone who's never felt like they belonged anywhere. You can learn more on Linktree/TheBulbaBoy, also on Twitter at TheBulbaBoy. And here is this week's Clouder query that you, our audience, can answer on all of our social media platforms.
What would you like to make sure folks know about your perspective on gender and non-binary, trans, or gender diverse issues? And what's your favorite part about being intersectional?
Hooray.
So, folks, next week's guest is going to be Kai Tyson, they, them pronouns, and we'll be doing some critical examination of the system of gender. I like to think of this next episode as intersectional gender studies. For community updates, just so you all know, we will have the GenderMeowster all staff vacation. Technically already started, but it really goes full swing tomorrow. The first 2 weeks of July, Genderful is the only show that we're going to be producing on the Twitch channel. But in terms of production and having producers and mods and all of that sort of ready to do the stuff, like we're all just going to take a break. So if you're noticing this episode has published a few weeks later than normal, that's what happened. Nothing bad happened. We took a break on purpose because everybody needs some time off after Pride Month, especially. With that, thank you all so much for being here. And remember, the trans rights are human rights. That's right. Genderful would like to thank our guest for being on this podcast. If you'd like to catch us live, join us on Mondays at twitch.tv/GenderMeowster. Show notes will appear in the edited version of the show on Fridays on both YouTube and podcasting platforms.
If you have a question you would like the host to answer, or are gender diverse and would like to request an interview, please send an email to genderfulpodcast@gmail.com or sign up via the website at genderfulpodcast.com.
As a gender diverse community, the Clouder wants to assure our listeners that we are prepared to moderate our spaces. We will get positive and negative feedback on these shows and topics, and we have a moderation team on our channels, socials, and Discord server ready to deal with this.
Please join our Discord server at discord.gg/Meowster to meet the community and get a regular digest of solidarity resources. You can also support us with subscriptions on Patreon, following and reviewing us on your favorite podcasting platform, or engaging with our posts and content on social media at GenderfulPod and at GenderMeowster.
You could take a few moments to also rate the show. We will post any 5-star reviews on our socials, so get creative. Mention a special interest of your own, a project you're working on, or even say hi to your comfort person in your review. What power!
This show is made possible by volunteers, tips, and subscriptions. Shout out to the folks helping us coordinate guests, edit the podcast, moderate the live chat, and post on our socials.
Artist credit for Genderful. Genderful's theme song is called Hope by Free Range Megs, aka Soma. The GenderMeowster logo was designed by That's Barnaby and edited with consent by Transgriffin. Genderful's pre-show is wrangled by JuiceTex. Genderful is edited and mixed by Transgriffin and Alexis Fandom. Genderful's social media is managed by Queer to Help. Genderful is hosted by Atlas O Phoenix and GenderMeowster. Genderful is the intellectual property of GenderMeowster. All rights reserved.
Trans rights are human rights. That's right.